These two keyboards sound amazing, look amazing, and both feel like heaven. But which one is better? I've reviewed tons of keyboards in the past 5 years, but this comparison, this broke me. The Evo80 and the Crush80 are so similar that choosing between them feels impossible. But after weeks of testing, I realized the real challenge isn't because they're so similar, it's because they're different in the ways that actually matter. And if I feel this way after hands-on testing, I can't imagine how frustrating this decision is for you. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly which one to buy without needing to go through the stress that I did. So side by side, these keyboards seem nearly identical. They've got the same layout, the same features, even the same price. At first, I thought I could just pick a winner instantly. Then I ended up swapping out switches, opening them up, and even questioning my own sanity. The truth is, where one keyboard falls short, the other excels. So what are the biggest differences, and is there objectively a better option? So when you choose a keyboard, it's hard to overlook how it looks. After all, it has to match your desk setup. Both keyboards have a 10 keyless layout, an aluminum case, subtle RGB accents. Now the Crush80 has an EKG heartbeat pattern, while the Evo80 has a light strip and a dot. The more I dug though, the more I started leaning towards one of them as the true winner in the looks category. The Evo80 has rounded edges that soften up its outer shell compared to the Crush80's hard, angular edges. Then when you look at the back side, both feature a conveniently located center-mounted USB-C port. Now here's where one of the keyboards start to get ahead of the other. Big time. Even if you never see the back, wouldn't you want it to be nice? And in this case, the Evo80 has better machining and details. Look at these curves and cutouts. It's clean. So nice. Now compare that to the box of the Crush80. When it comes to color options, the Evo80 has more subtle, muted tones, while the Crush80 has more saturated, bold colors. This is personal preference, but the design just barely goes to the Evo80. Now, when you turn it around, you'll hit with a tough decision. All you see at first are two different looking back weights. The Crush80 has a stainless steel weight that has been coated to make it scratch and fingerprint resistant, whereas the Evo80 opted for something simpler and lighter, making the final keyboard weigh 4 pounds 2.46 ounces compared to the Crush80's whopping 5 pounds 3.4 ounces. But a keyboard is more than just looks and weight. If it's inconvenient to use, you slowly get irritated until you no longer want to use it. And in this case, the Crush80 might have a feature that makes it the clear winner. It's this, a small magnetic cover that you lift up to reveal an integrated dongle storage slot. Now I know what you're thinking, it's not a big deal. Now come back and say that when you lose your wireless dongle and you can't connect with 2.4G anymore. I dare you. So the Evo80 has storage somewhere too, but it's not a convenient spot to access, and we'll talk about that later when it's time to take apart the case. So the Evo80 has a slightly better design, but the Crush80 is more convenient. That's 1 point for both, and this next category could be the tiebreaker that ultimately swings the winner. If you're into keyboards, you'll know that the magic happens on the inside. The true details that separate a good keyboard from a great keyboard. Both keyboards are extremely easy to take apart thanks to the ball catch mechanism. That's how easy it is. And the first thing you'll notice is how thin and lightweight the Evo80's top plate is compared to the Crush80. While the Evo80 is slightly easier to take apart, the Crush80 feels more robust and durable. But I don't see either of these keyboards breaking because of the thickness in the case and the top plate. Now remember that the Evo80 has dongle storage? Well, it's right here underneath the top plate. You press it into this little cutout and then you have to close the keyboard to store it. So it's good on them for having a place for the dongle, but the convenience really isn't there. Whenever I open it sometimes and I lift it up, the dongle just gets launched somewhere and it's so easy to lose. So we also see where both keyboards seriously have room for improvement. The on-off switches are beneath the caps lock key. You literally have to pry it open to turn it on. Both keyboards have south-facing switches and RGB, as well as cherry profile keycaps. The Crush80 has double shot plastic compared to the die sub on the Evo80. Both are high quality methods of coloring keycaps, although some people like double shot more. It's preference. They're about what you want for a keyboard of this price and quality. And both use FR4 plates, flex cut PCBs, 5 layers of foam, and a magnetic connection instead of ribbon cables. No ribbon cables. Now at this point, you're probably thinking they're literally the same. To find the real key difference, we have to go deeper, farther than we've ever gone. Boom! See it? Both let you have an ISO enter, a split left shift, and a step caps lock for you European folks out there who use ISO layouts. But the Crush80 goes even farther by having options for split backspace, split space bar, and something else. This is a huge bonus for you tinkerers out there. It also supports PCB mounted stabilizers. The Evo80 doesn't. Although all the stabilizers should sound really good stock, so the Crush80 ekes ahead here for all the customizability. 2 V1. So far, these keyboards are nearly neck and neck, but you can have the best features and build quality in the world. If the keyboard falls short in this next category, none of that matters. This is where keyboards live or die, feast or famine, win or lose. And it's, you know, the typing feel and sound. After all, no one's bragging about their expensive paperweight, right? Well, some people do. The variation I have of the Evo80 is the Clack edition with an FR4 plate and Azure switches. The real killer is that they also sell a Thock edition with an ultra flexible PP plate and oat switches. So if you like a nice Thock, they've got you covered. Now the Crush80 also has 2 switch options, the light version with the HMX Frost switches and the Pro version with the Kale Cocoa switches. The Evo80 just has a deeper and slightly quieter sound, whereas both versions of the Crush80 is more clacky. Sound is completely subjective, but because the Evo80 offers 2 significantly different sound profiles, 1 point for them, tying up the score. Can you see how this comparison caused me so much stress? Why are they tying up? However, the Evo80 came to me with a significant problem that rendered it almost unusable, and that was an ultra ticky spacebar that I had to relube, which is ridiculous for a $170 keyboard. The Crush80 here gets a point for not having stabilizer problems and coming great out of the box. We're at 3 points for the Evo80, 2 for the Crush80. But what about the feel? The Evo80 uses a leaf spring mounting style, which gives it a uniform bounce throughout the keyboard, and it's by using these little metal bars here that it sits on and bounces when you type. Comparatively, the Crush80 uses these tadpole gaskets, which are notoriously easy to lose if you're not careful. The Crush80 has very little flex or bounce when typing on it because there's just no space if you're using all this foam. When you remove the foams, the bounciness comes back. The Evo80 doesn't have this problem. Even with the foam installed, it's still a nice bounce. Both keyboards have a ton of flex because of the flex cuts on the PCB and on the plate. To some people, this is too flexible and you get hot spots and it's annoying and distracting. To me, it was okay. My husband couldn't stand it though. One day when I was switching from the Crush80 to the Evo80, I felt something that just made the Evo80 so much better in my mind. And to you, this may be nothing, but to me, it was a game changer. And that was the front height of the Evo80. It's just lower by a bit, but every little bit matters when you're typing. So that's 1 point for the Evo80, 4 V2. It looks like the Evo80 is better, right? And I wish so I could be done with this video, but the Crush80 has a trick up its sleeve. So what about the day-to-day use? Is connecting to it easy? What about software? So they both use VIA, which is an open source browser software, and you can remap keys, record macros, change your lighting, you know, all the stuff. Again, no difference. Both keyboards can connect through 3 ways: wired, Bluetooth, and 2.4G, and the battery life is similar too. The Crush80 has a 7500 mAh, whereas the Evo80 has an 8000 mAh battery, so technically it's a smidge better, but doesn't warrant a whole point. It's like barely anything. Now the Crush80 is making a comeback when it comes to this: convenience and accessibility, which actually makes a massive difference when someone decides to buy one product over the other. In this case, the Crush80 has an edge. It's available on a ton of different sites, but the real kicker is that you can get it off Amazon. That's right, with 2-day Prime shipping. The catch? It's more expensive on Amazon. Instead of the usual $170, you'll be paying $190, which is the same price as buying from the official Wabkey website once you add in shipping anyways, so sort of the same. With the Crush80, you can also get the light version for $160 instead of $170. It doesn't come with RGB, it has different switches, and it has half the battery size. But if those things didn't matter for you in the first place, saving $10 might not be so bad. There's also other vendors around the world. In the US, we have mechanicalkeyboards.com and DiviniKey and some others, and you can buy from them. They might even offer free shipping. The Evo80 is also available on vendor sites too for a similar price. On the official QWERTY site, you have to wait longer since they're not exactly in stock products. So you wait around 2 to 4 weeks to get your keyboard, plus you'll have to pay a whopping $35 in shipping. At least that was the price for me. And dang, that's a lot of money for shipping. So the Crush80 gets a point here for having slightly lower price options. So this puts the score at 4-3 in favor of the Evo. Now this point point, I seriously thought I knew who the winner was. But then I noticed a big difference that made me question everything. So both keyboards come in a nice carrying case, one gray and the other black. Both have 3 extra switches, extra gaskets, bumpers, little feet, as well as a simple braided USB-C cable. But what made the biggest difference is the attention to detail. The quick start guide, the manual, and the little parts are labeled super clear with the Crush80. They even give you some additional hardware in case you lose some screws, and they give you this. They give you an extra aluminum plate. Typically, you pay like $20 extra for an extra plate, and they give it to you just in case you wanted a stiffer typing experience and a different sound. I mean, they just give it to you. That's pretty neat. So 1 point to the Crush80 here, and we're tied 4v4. So who is the winner, Betty? Who? Tell me! The numbers say it's tied, but just like how we can't be defined by our grades, our SAT scores, and our paychecks, keyboards are more than just a list of features. In fact, this entire point system was made up by me on the spot while I wrote this. And to make matters worse, a lot of this stuff is subjective. It is. So I think to wrap this headache of a video up and to oversimplify it, the Evo80 has a better design and a more comfortable typing experience, but the Crush80 has better customization, a more convenient dongle holder, and a more accessible purchase process. For me, I'd pick the Evo80 for comfort, but I would really miss the features on the Crush80 with that decision. The good news, really can't go wrong with either. Pick your poison. Both have a ton of happy users who love their keyboard and don't regret getting them. Now here's a sound test. Which one would you choose, comfort or convenient? And check out my Crush80 review from a few weeks ago here if you're interested in learning more.